Johnny Depp himself is here or not. But,
It's probably a refugee from the Western art world rather than wanting.
yeah. So here maybe you can show the bikes on the side of the road. These are all ride-share bikes.
So those are the ride-share bikes.
Yeah. These.
Oh, behind that.
Yeah, those blue ones you can rent from within the Alipay.
Yeah.
Which is normally what I use.
The blue ones, yellow ones, green ones.
Yeah, the yellow ones I tried. They want my passport information.
Maybe that's why. Maybe I tried the yellow and not the blues. Maybe that's why I got stuck with the passport.
Yeah. The yellow ones, they want your passport information, and I keep on forgetting to. I don't remember it on top of my head, so I just stick with the blue one.
Okay. I'll try the blue ones then.
Yeah.
Because I tried to get a bike to come and see you, but I got stuck with this passport thing. Be a civilized tourist. They have this sign in the public toilets that says, "A small step for humanity, a big step for civilization."
Yeah, they tell you to get closer.
Yeah, and then
to the
they told me
urinal.
that's from Neil Armstrong.
Oh, really?
When you stepped on the moon.
Yes. Yeah, it's a paraphrasing.
Get closer. That's also what Arachi said, right?
Mm-hmm.
Come closer.
Yeah.
A big step for civilization. So this is the place that's handing White Empire its backside. Beautiful. I was speaking to some taxi drivers. Once they know you're not trying to get them to shit talk China, they really speak their minds.
Yes.
And it's amazing. Like, they know more about geopolitics than your average Western PhD, right?
True. Especially the taxi drivers. They can find everything.
I know. This guy even knew the number of Chinese electric cars that were due to be exported to Canada.
Oh, wow.
49,000, if I remember correctly.
That is impressive.
I know. We still haven't had them, though.
Yeah. Actually, most of them are Teslas made in Shanghai. Most of them are Teslas made from the Shanghai Gigafactory.
Right. So what's the fucking point? Teslas are truck. Yeah. But those cars, they are just a movement.
Yeah, so in fact, Tesla wasn't profitable until Elon Musk opened the Shanghai Gigafactory here. Even today, so 60% of the Tesla production all over the world is made here.
And that's why he feels he has to say a few nice words tweet a few nice words about China every now and again, right?
Yeah. Okay. Let's go to Mifie.
There we go.
Let's go to Mifie.
Yeah, they've got great...
I like the ice cream.
Bubble tea.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. We came to the right place. That woman did not mislead us.
Right.
Oh, look at
the brilliant from
look at all these people playing chess here. All these old uncles just hanging out in the street corner. Look at this. They're playing chess.
This is Chinese chess.
This is how the Chinese uncles spend their retirement. They're playing the Chinese chess. Okay, I'm gonna go get some.
Yeah, we can.
It's gonna be hard to find it. See, we came here to look for it. Maybe we can sit there. There's something. Okay.
Let's call it on.
Okay.
Mango something.
Okay, which one do you want?
The mango one. I think that one is the peach one, but I like the mango.
The mango one? Okay.
The mango one.
这个桃喜茫茫里面有芒果吗？哪一个 drink 里面有？哪一个端子里面有芒果？然后哪一个是有芒果的？这个桃喜茫茫就是一个 OK。来一个桃喜茫茫，来一个黄桃果吧，好吧。
You're trying the peach one.
Do you want regular ice, regular sugar?
Less sugar if possible.
这个桃喜茫茫不要太多的糖，少点糖。啊？人民币市场的。
Conditioning down here. Let me get that. Sure. And then we'll tunnel right down there. Can we go see those? Which one would you?
Oh, it's a flip bot. Oh, okay, good. So here, you don't even need to. You just need to touch it with the Alipay. You need to touch it. Right.
See here, and it's done.
So it's.
There's about 4 ways of paying with Alipay, right?
Wait, what happened?
Scan, you
Oh,
can
here.
scan, and you let's see pay.
My internet is slow. I think. What's going on? Oh, here we go. This is cool.
It's
淘宝选购100转订单是为了提说出的订单就是走到上来分订单。
Okay. Did you add this stuff?
it's not we have it.
好，我刚刚支付了。提醒我，他说我刚刚这个的判断。
明白了。
然后你看，蜜雪冰糖支付说
超时了，这退要指出来有点准。
啊，
这个不超时了，然后退要指出来有准。当时超时。
但我没有哦。你收到一笔 OK 给我，那我用那个微信扫好了。
Still works.
Okay. Oh, yours is in English, so just
Pay directly. Yeah, you wanted to say this pay directly.
yeah. Okay.
There we go.
It's done. Okay, yours is faster than mine. Because I have to. It probably to put in the credit card information.
Yeah, I got to do with that. You have to say pay directly if you don't want to hear from them
Okay.
twice a day for the rest of your life.
Well, thank you for
You're very
the
welcome.
蜜雪冰糖
Thanks for the
drink.
walk to Hi.
Oh, we found a place to sit down, but you won't be AC because we'll be sitting outside.
I'll be fine if you're fine.
淘宝选购10套的交易动皮质订单。
Make you enjoy the AC more when you get back to yours.
Yeah.
And the carry bags are so nice. The first time we got, take away food delivered.
好的。哪一个是毛毛？这是毛毛。Okay, this is yours.
This one is Monday. Fine.
There.
That's good. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. All right, let's go find a seat. Okay.
So, oh,
I kind of want to sit here, but then somebody put their.
does that work for you? I'm good sitting there.
You want to sit here? Let's see.
So the only thing I found in China is the smoke.
Yeah,
Especially in the toilet, right?
I hate that. You're not actually supposed to be smoking.
I know,
toilet, but people
it says
still do.
500 to 2,000 yuan and they still smoke.
That's the time where I wish there is a social credit system.
I know. They tell me it's not the same in women's toilets, but in the guys' bathroom,
I never went
try.
inside. Women's toilet in China.
My sister told me that. I'll take her word. I'm taking her word for it. Here we are. This seems to work. Let me see. So,
What we're drinking is from 蜜雪冰城, and they just beat McDonald's to become the world's largest like kind of the chain.
okay.
Yeah.
Now, there's one thing about the fast food in China. It's quality food. Everywhere. It's freshly made in most places.
Yeah.
Even the burgers, we went to this, Chinese bar. I don't know what it's called, but it's deliberately super Chinese.
Yeah.
And they make it in front of you. They make it fresh.
Yeah, the Chinese people they place a premium on freshness of the You know,
And maybe that's why you don't see that all the time, right? Few beer bellies, but almost no obesity.
because they do a lot of walking. You know, at least you're like you see people walking on the street everywhere, and they don't you don't have people do that in North America anymore. At least not in the United States, because a lot of the cities in U.S. are not designed to be walkable cities. They're designed
to not be walkable.
they're designed that you need a car. You need a car.
The sidewalks are private, so you don't. One thing I found really striking in China is, you have these images of Chinese people working from 5 a.m. to 12 p.m. like crazy, and everybody seems to be super relaxed. There's a lot of street life that's, it's not even that high intensity. There's a lot of people, but it's not super crazy.
I put a caveat. Most of the people around us, these uncles are retired. They don't have to work. They're just enjoying life.
The hard workers are cooked up in the offices.
Well, today is Saturday also. Saturday. The people still have their day off.
I just said this, I'm doing work doing psychotherapists in China, and normally I give my workshop 8 hours a day, and I couldn't get those people to agree to more than 6 hours a day, which is really what I have to do when I go to Denmark.
Right.
So I'm starting to doubt that these people work that 2 hours. I mean, this is a psychologist who are guiding. What they do, as I understand, is they stay a long time in the office because it looks bad if you're the first to leave. But they don't necessarily.
Yeah, that is true. And because I actually, when I was in U.S., I worked at Sony Pictures, and our boss, my immediate boss, he's started his job in, he started his career working in Japan, right? So it's really bad because now it was a point where he got into the kind of that Japanese working habits.
Some guys want to invite us to play Chinese chess. Oh, he's showing that he's winning?
他真的懂一点点。啊？
Yeah. 我听懂一点点中文。
是我啊。哦，对，他是我的粉丝。我是网红，他是我的粉丝。I was telling him that I'm an influencer and you are my fan. He was asking how.
Need a fan, sir. Motion the fan, sir. I came all the way to China to see my idol.
Thank you.
Youth idols being the youth phenomenon in China, if I understand things correctly.
I might be stretching the definition of a youth a little bit.
Yeah. So you spend your evenings going on dates and
I'm going to be 50 this October, and I'm looking forward to join these retired uncles. That's what I want to be when I grow up.
I really want to be. It's a great ambition, really. So, it's very nice to meet you in person, Carl.
Oh.
You've been cooking. Talking about the inevitable collapse of white empire. When I started the podcast, I wanted to call it first gradually, then suddenly. There's a phrase in The Sun Also Rises from Hemingway, where this guy asks how he went bankrupt, and he says 2 ways. First gradually, and then suddenly.
Yes.
And then he said, and friends.
Yes. Yes.
And I keep on waiting for the suddenly part, but I think China is playing a really smart game that it doesn't want the suddenly to be too sudden, right?
Yeah, because that would be bad for the whole world economy, right? It's going to be very disruptive because there's a sudden implosion of the U.S. So they want to manage the gradual decline of the U.S. empire. Yeah.
Because they could bring it in about 5 minutes flat, couldn't they? They could just
but you will
stop
be,
everything.
But you will be highly disruptive, right, for everyone. So right now they're trying to build an alternative, kind of replace piece by piece the old U.S. system.
But I'm curious to know about your opinion about this, because I just had a conversation with Prof. Mahoney here in Shanghai, and he was saying, he said, really China is not trying to compete with anybody. They're just trying to do China to develop, because that's what they want to do. They're serving their people, as you know.
That's what every government should be doing. To focus on doing the best for their own people, their own society,
rather than beat other people.
Exactly, because for United States, everything is a zero-sum game. You know, they think in order for them to win, everyone have to lose.
Yeah.
Their only idea of a competition is like the Tanya Hart way of competition by kneecapping your opponents. And
I'm pretending it's your opponent's fault. They made you do it. But what do you do? Because white empire has this particular view. And of course, on the left, even on the Marxist left in the West, you have this view that why doesn't China do more? Why doesn't China go faster? Why doesn't China, I don't know what, send troops to Palestine or Iran or what have you? And so what's your answer to that?
Well, I think I think some people, they fall into kind of the revolutionary defeatism. Because they kind of bought into the idea that U.S. empire is all powerful, right? But look, Iran is doing perfectly fine handling U.S. right now in the Strait of Hormuz. U.S. is not all powerful. In fact, U.S. is a paper tiger.
Yeah.
And Iran has shown that very plainly to the whole world.
Yeah.
And China, they are supporting Iran. What China prefer to do, they like to do behind the scenes. They don't want to be like front and center, like show off style. Like that's a style of Americans, like Pete Hegseth, Trump. They always feel like flex in front of the camera. Like we are the greatest. We beat the Iran like 56 times already. That's not how China operate. China like to do things behind the scenes. They're still supporting Iran. China have been propping up the Iranian economy for decades now under the U.S. sanction. China was buying up 90% of Iranian oil the whole time. So, yeah,
but it was also a win-win arrangement, right? Because China could use Iranian oil for its own development.
Yes, and China was also selling Iranian the chemical precursors that they needed to make more ballistic missiles. On the other hand, China was putting export control on rare earths and critical minerals, so United States cannot replenish their missile interceptors. So that does make a difference. But but that's not a flashy stuff people can see on the headline, right? These all happen in the background. They're all like pointing us. They saw us filming.
And they take pictures also of us white people and stuff. Happy enough to be photographed.
Just you, white person.
No,
I'm with them.
With
I'm one of the masses here.
Actually, nobody's taking our picture because you're here and you're kind of
because I'm the influencer.
You're bringing down the whiteness level to unacceptable.
你说这反正他是美国人吗？
加拿大，
加拿大，
我是加拿大人。
那边加拿大跟美国还一个呀。
And
他们都。
Yeah, and it's really hard to get people to understand this thing, like I was thinking also about the fighting philosophy of Datri, which is very much you bring your opponent to a place where aggression is not an option anymore, right?
Yes.
And that sounds so much like the foreign policy in terms of, slowly turning up the spigot on all those raw earth and all the things that well, they need everything because they're not building anything anymore except for, derivatives or whatever. And,
and see, that's a problem because the U.S. elite have been cut off from actual manufacturing for so long. They don't understand what it takes for manufacturing to work anymore. You get to the point where even the U.S. military-industrial complex now have to depend on the Chinese supply chain. So now they're ringing the alarm bell, but it's too late because it's going to take them decades to rebuild that in the United States. And despite all Trump's rhetoric about rebuilding U.S. and bring manufacturing back home, all his policies have been the opposite effect. Yeah. So, that's a problem. It's a hubris does not correspond to the reality on the ground. The reality on the ground is the U.S. don't make anything anymore. They'll only make debts and war. And you can't, but you can print as much U.S. dollars as you want, but you cannot print missile interceptors.
Exactly right.
And there's an inherent symmetry in kind of the missile defense, because what you're doing is replying to shoot a bullet with a bullet. So your bullet have to be smarter, more intelligent, and also more expensive. Because for people with possessor with ballistic missile, all they need is to make sure you hit a target. But if you are making a missile interceptor, you have to understand where that missile is coming from, where it's going, and you have to understand its speed to match it in order to shoot it up. So the missile interceptor will always be more expensive than the missile is trying to shoot down. Now, that might work if your opponent only have a limited number of missiles to destroy. But in case of Iran, that has tens of thousands of missiles, it's not a math or economics you can win, because every missile you're shooting down, you are losing the math. You are spending more money to shoot down a much cheaper product. And after the end of the day, U.S. don't have that manufacturing base anymore to outmatch what Iran can produce.
No, and also their missile industry is all built to maximize torque amongst all the different states. So it's all kind of, boutiques.
Yes.
If you look at the pictures of their missile factories, they're almost workshops. They're almost like, I don't know what, custom guitar workshops, right?
The U.S. military-industrial complex is not designed to win wars. It's designed for grist.
For maximizing shareholder value, as you say.
Yeah, it's maximizing grist. So the moment you pit them against a serious opponent, everything kind of falls apart. I mean, before, people don't know this as much because U.S. was fighting Afghanistan or Iraq, right? And once you fight a more serious opponent, okay, so Iran, the house of cards falls apart.
Yeah. And if they can't take on Iran, who can they take on?
Forget about China. Yeah, that's a fantasy. I mean, that's.
But that's a very interesting point. I would like us to make it clearer to people because, there are those doomers in the West who go, China is so naive, they don't understand everything is against them, and this thing against Iran is actually targeting China, and China doesn't seem to realize they are so naive, not to say stupid, because, they're not white people.
This is actually more about their own conceit, because for some reason they think the Chinese leadership who have been managing the life of 1.4 billion people somehow are really stupid and naive compared to them, who are essentially armchair generals, right? And it's just, and something doesn't compute, but people, just think about it for a second. None of these Chinese leadership could rise to the position they are, being naive and stupid, right? Because these guys also actually rise from...
How do they rise to the top? Yeah.
These guys all have to rise from the grass level. Like Xi Jinping, he started as a general secretary of a village.
Yes.
Then he got promoted.
And what you need to do, you need to provide results for the village, right?
Exactly.
And you're general secretary of the party
That's how you get promoted. If you only after you show some results, you get promoted to the next level. You can become mayor, a township, a county, a city, and
a city which is about 2.5 million people.
and then a province.
Which is another 200 million people.
That's a career path of Xi Jinping. He went through all this stuff. So anyone who rises to the top in the Chinese system, there's no way they're stupid and naive.
Yeah.
Okay, that's just a fact. So I mean, for the people who think they're smarter than the Chinese leadership, ask the question: what have you done? What have you done compared to what? Yeah, you're on Twitter, right? And you're so powerful. So anyway.
Yeah, and I don't think people realize, meritocracy as an administrative system is actually a Chinese invention, and it's very old. It used to be the case, I believe, that even the lowest person in China could rise to the top of the administrative of the whole empire just by taking those super hard exams that had to be reformed a few times because they weren't exactly...
And in fact, the modern European nation state, they got their civil service system based on the ancient Chinese imperial exams.
France did that.
France, Germany, and British.
But now, you know what? In France, they closed their main national administration school because they thought nepotism is better.
Well, that is the problem.
They didn't like that anybody who worked hard could actually make it. They don't know that's not the free market really, as we define it.
That explains a lot. That explains the Europe today.
That explains your Macron.
Yeah, that explains Macron, definitely.
Yeah, he tried to get into that school and he couldn't. Yeah. And there's this thing that you said about Mahoney said this thing about China leading from the middle, right? And I think you said something a little bit similar. Is that how would you define it today in terms of the general war going on? Do you think China can stop the empire, or will it eventually go to war with it? Or will the empire eventually go to war with China?
Right. I mean, I think as the event has unfolded in the Gulf, in the Persian Gulf, has shown that anybody who thinks the empire has a chance to go to war with China and win is fantastic. It's a fantasy. That's not going to happen. I mean, I'm sure there are still delusional people who hold those views in the West, but anyone who has any kind of clear, rational thinking can recognize that's not a viable option anymore. And that's why even Tony Blinken in a recent interview, he said, well, if U.S. and China go ahead toe-to-toe, it's a mismatch because China has bigger population, have bigger manufacturing base. So he's basically saying United States cannot go match head-on one-on-one with China. But he goes on and say, this is why we need our allies. We need to all band together. Then we'll be a bigger force. Look, if the U.S. empire can't do anything about Iran, you think a couple more French, German warship will make a difference? No. I mean,
I think the UK barely has 5 warships that are seaworthy, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's ridiculous.
It's funny. They still build warships in South Korea, right? It's the only other place where they build ships, except for Taiwan.
So U.S. used to have the majority of the shipbuilding capability of the world after World War II, right? And then what happened was, after that, U.S. basically rested on its laurels. They're like, okay, we're already number one, and we already have plenty of ships. And at that time, they let the U.S. ship industry actualize. One part is because they produce a lot of ships. They didn't need to produce ships for the next couple of decades. But in the meantime, shipbuilding moved to places like Japan and Korea. So this was before even China opened up. So throughout 70s, they have let Japan and South Korea taken over all the market share of new shipbuilding. And then China emerged after 1990s. And now China, I think, no, I saw the numbers. In 2026, China built 70% of the new orders for ships are being built in China, right? I mean, how can you... China has 220 times the shipbuilding capacity than United States. How can you go to a naval war against China?
That's just the prime naval power in the world, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah. But really what happened is the US started to financialize. Like, it was cheaper to farm out the shipbuilding to Southeast Asia because the wages were lower. You didn't have the protections that US workers used to have. And therefore you made more money,
That's all.
Industrializing your own country and financializing.
And that process started back in the 70s. Well before China opened up. So the United States had been outsourcing first to like Japan, then to Korea, then to Southeast Asia, and that process was a willful process, intentionally done by the Wall Street elite. And now they're looking back and say, oh.
So when you say willful, it's just because it's the way you make more money. So if you maximize shareholder value, then you have to do it. All these big U.S. industrial companies, effectively by the 90s, had become financial companies. All of them, General Electric, General Dynamics, General Motors, all of them had become financial industries. And when they used to say what's good for General Motors is good for America, well now...
This is a big difference between China and the United States. A lot of people say, oh, China, they're just practicing capitalism. They're no different from the United States. Well, I'll tell you what the difference is. In China, the state owns the banks. The state owns the bank. In the United States, the banks run the state. That is a big difference.
Not just the state, everything.
Yeah, that is a big difference.
Yeah.
Because here, the banks and the financial sector is just a tool for the government to reshape and redirect the economy, right? They don't set the agenda. It's like in the United States, the financial elite sets the agenda for the state, and that is a fundamental difference. You can't say the two are the same. Jack Ma do not set policy, right? That's why they have all these scary stories from Wall Street Journal.
Jack Ma for a while thought he could have some political influence because of all his money, and what happened to him?
Yeah, he's now sidelined. I mean, he's still he's still a very wealthy man.
He's reappeared.
Yeah. He's still very wealthy. People think Jack Ma got killed. No, Jack Ma's still alive. He's still a very wealthy man, but she doesn't get to. Alibaba, Alipay, they don't get to decide how China should be run, right? And so that very different in Washington, where Scott Benson can go from running a hedge fund for George Soros, to be the Treasury Secretary of the United States. You fail to the top. So,
but don't you think that Chinese agents like Trump and Besson and stuff?
That's a joke on the Chinese internet, actually. they say Trump is actually the best Chinese secret agent that's to bring the downfall of the United States.
I actually picked it up, with all this thing where they put Trump in a truck, food truck and everything. The Israelis pretending the Iranians wanted to kill him to make him attack Iran more. And then Iraq said, no, we want to keep Trump because he's doing the best job destroying America. Then we couldn't replace him.
It's true. It's on forever.
So maybe they should abolish the term limits. In the
Trump 2028.
This is accelerationism. Yeah, but it's not really accelerationist because we're trusting the Chinese government to make sure it doesn't accelerate
too
into
much.
a wall.
It doesn't accelerate into a wall.
Right.
So you wanna start walking? Maybe we can walk to the Huangpu River.
For sure. Let's do that. So Carl Zha, who's had his arm broken by the Communist Party of China, as you see, has to has to toe the line.
by a communist bicycle.
Yeah,
Made in
that's
China.
right. That's right. It wouldn't have happened in a Western car, I can tell you for sure. Okay.
It got broken on communist pavement. Yeah, communist park.
Yeah. Those pavements are in the pay of the secret police. That's what they are.
Okay.
Okay, let's go. So we have now.
We go that way.
Drinks. Let me see. Where's the guide? Where is the man? Here he is. Let's go. That works. That's it. Yes.
That's the second scooter driver I saw. Oh, I was just gonna say that's the second guy I saw obeying the traffic rule, but
Yeah.
they're just disappointing me. Oh no, time to turn across.
There's scooters everywhere. But it's so quiet. I was in Vietnam a few years ago, and there are all mopeds there.
Yeah,
and it's like hell.
Yeah, same thing in Indonesia, same thing in Bali, because here the government, they subsidize the electric scooters, and so it's cheap. So and also the electricity is pricey. China is very cheap.
Wow.
So it makes a lot more sense for people to buy electric scooters. And but in other countries, in Indonesia, for example, the government subsidized the fuel. They subsidize petrol. So, so people could just get regular, motorbikes. But yeah, they're noisy, polluting, very loud.
They burn you also, yeah.
And which is a problem right now during the Strait of Hormuz crisis, because Indonesian government is still subsidizing the fuel prices, but Indonesia is actually a oil importer now. Yeah. It imports 1 million barrels of oil per day.
Wow.
So now
it used to be a producer, right?
Indonesia produce about 600 barrels of oil per day. But
I guess.
But Indonesia consume about 1.6 million barrels of oil per day. So it needs to import net 1 million barrels of oil. And because it subsidizes the fuel prices, now with the oil price rising, the Indonesian government is running a large deficit. That's why now the whole Indonesian economy is under pressure. The Indonesian rupiah is falling in value against US dollars, and that creates a problem because Indonesia, they import everything. They import food like soybean, because like for a lot of the Indonesian, their main protein intake is from tofu and tempeh, which is made from soybeans.
With my actual thing.
And Indonesia Indonesia have to import all these soybeans traditionally from the United States with dollars. So this created additional problem for the Indonesian economy. And this was all by design, actually, because the U.S. Used to organize these quote-unquote food aid to countries like in Asia, like Korea and Indonesia. And traditionally, Indonesian diet consists of rice, right?
Right, yeah.
There's not much consumption of wheat because Indonesia don't produce wheat.
Exactly.
But when United States in the 1960s, they start dumping a lot of wheat and flour to Indonesia under the guise of aid.
Here we are.
That's when noodles became popular, and that's when the Indonesian
ramen explosion.
Yeah, the instant noodle Indomie got started because they got their hands on all these imported American flour, and they made into instant noodle. The Indomie became.
Do you think